Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at Micron. It is time for another update. And on this chart, it seems we have taken an even more bullish path than what we had presented in the previous video. We didn't want to jump the gun previously to provide overwhelmingly bullish expectations, and it would have also provided very similar areas of support with what we have been tracking regardless. So realistically, it wouldn't have provided much of an impact and might have only caused more confusion, really. Now, given this latest development, this feat of strength we see here in these last few days, I would consider we would be looking at something significantly more bullish. And even here, we have a few paths we can take, but I will be primarily focusing on the scenario that can provide us the most reliable setups, because if it doesn't, it's not going to be too worthwhile to jump in trades at these levels. Before we move into the smaller time frame and provide the actual trade setup we have today, I also wanted to highlight that given this strength we now have, we might be looking at something significantly more bullish even from a larger time frame perspective, because based on the strength of this movement to the upside, it might be that only now are we actually building the wave tree. It might be that all of this would have been a series of 1-2 setups, and we would continue in a significantly more direct fashion to significantly higher prices than we have been previously anticipating. Don't get me wrong, we have been expecting always, especially within this yellow interpretation, to reach the ideal target for the wave 3, which was the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. That sits at $660. Only yesterday have we actually gotten here. But without jumping the gun, I am looking for an expansion right now that is a plausibility. I won't be primarily focusing on this being something like a 1-2 setup and the wave 3 developing only now, but I will be looking for serious extensions within this as a wave 5 to the upside. And even if we don't get the actual wave 3 to be building from these levels, I would still be looking for a larger wave 4 support zone for this as a larger wave 3 regardless, right? I would strongly consider that even once this uptrend, this rally, comes to a more significant end, we would still expect continued upside after a wave 4 correction. This chart is extremely bullish, and I'm looking for significant upside to still be had. In fact, if this is to build a 1, 2, 3, I can provide you an internal target for such a structure, and that would be once again the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. Well, based on the length of the supposed wave 1 and the wave 2 retracement, this sits at nearly $1,100, right? But if this structure manages to build an actual impulse, I would be looking for even these levels to be exceeded. Now, let's get into the smaller time frame, because this is what will allow us to determine how likely is it to actually build a 1-2 setup in this structure. And let me even help you in visualizing this by adding this as a larger 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's say we track this in orange, and within this structure, I need to build an impulse in this wave 3. We will leave it at this at the moment, and we go into the smaller time frame, where in the previous video we have rightfully been looking still for continued upside, but not necessarily within such strength. We have been considering this to be a potential wave 3. Well, now I have no choice but to consider this to have been instead a potential additional 1-2 setup, where once again we would have at our hands a series of 1-2 setups within this structure, where it is actually quite difficult to identify an exact count. The patterns are not exactly ideal, but I am able to track these, and I am able to actually look for this to develop into a larger wave 3 to the upside. I do want to mention, for the wave 3 in orange, once again, an impulse must be forming. Within the wave 5 in blue, however, it is perfectly possible to build this as an ending diagonal, and in such a scenario, we could be looking for a more significant top sooner rather than later, where this could have been realistically something like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, something like that could be building, where we would still be looking to continue to higher prices, but nowhere near to the extent we would in the scenario of an actual impulse. Today, we will not actually focus on all of these scenarios. Instead, we will go into the smaller time frame where I will show you how I am tracking this pattern and how I can actually look for trade setups within this movement to the upside. So we were tracking this correction in the previous video, and from these levels, we were looking potentially for a wave 5. This has not happened. We have instead gotten here what I would consider to be a series of 1-2 setups. And then this would be my larger wave 3 to the upside, and I would be looking ideally for a wave 4 correction at this point. Given that this would be expected to be a wave 3 in this scenario, I would normally look for a wave 4 correction and a wave 5 to take us to higher prices before a larger degree wave 3 would be complete. But I cannot rule out the possibility of the wave 5 of the wave 3 itself to form an extension, which is exactly what I would have to consider within a yellow interpretation, where yesterday we would have formed the bottom within an internal wave 4. This would have been a wave 1 up instead of a wave 5, and this could have been the actual wave 2 correction. Don't get me wrong, the wave 2 could still see a reset, but if we are to extend directly higher within this movement to the upside, I would have no choice but to consider this to likely be an extension. And once again, an impulse within this structure could be forming a larger wave 3. We would be looking for even further extensions at that point, but I do not believe it to be the time to dream too much about these scenarios. In fact, yesterday I have been looking for the wave 3 to have potentially topped here and build the wave 4 correction in this movement, but the proportions are just not a right match. I expect, if this is to be the wave 3, to have actually extended here, because the wave 4 would have been far too small compared with what we have in this as a wave 2. So if we now form something like a larger A, B, C pattern, and based on the current pre-market pricing, we would see additional lows, I would like for this wave 4 in white to be taking place instead of the yellow structure, because this would allow us to look for more clear structures to take place. It would allow us to identify more clear levels of support, and it would allow us far more reliable trade setups. If we manage to build this wave 4 and extend into the 38.2% retracement, $629, $630, I would find this to be an ideal level to bottom. Not only is this the ideal target for a wave 4, but we have significant structural support at these levels where we have formed previous bottoms, levels from which we have reversed to higher prices. So, in an ideal structure for me, I would be looking for this to be building the wave 4 already. It would make it easier for us to trade this stock if it manages to form this as a larger wave 4 correction, because we could be looking in continuation for a series of 4 or 5 patterns for each and every single one of these series of 1-2 setups, right? And to be clear, even if the ideal target for the wave 4 is the 38.2% retracement, my minimum expectations for this structure would be to reach the 23.6% retracement, but unfortunately that is also not going to provide the most promising risk-reward ratios, because our invalidation would still have to sit at the 50% retracement at $618. In addition to that, to be clear, it is still possible for this stock to extend to higher prices, as we have shared within the idea of an ending diagonal in this wave 5 in blue. But unless we manage to follow this path of an impulse, it would be significantly more difficult to identify reliable trade setups, which is why for me, this is the only interesting pattern to track. I want to caution you that it is perfectly possible that we may only get a brief break of the 50% retracement, invalidate the white scenario where, actually I should be even tracking this in orange, let's say, and we might still form the reversal and extend to higher prices within the idea of an ending diagonal, but once again, those are likely not going to be reliable patterns, and I do not find it interesting, at least for myself, to be tracking unreliable patterns too closely, especially in an environment where the market has provided so many opportunities lately. And for now, I believe we can stop here. Once again, within this overall structure, I would like a reset. I would like to get into this larger orange area of support, but I would not dismiss this orange interpretation where, yes, we could form a larger wave 3 to the upside. We could be forming an extension once more, but I cannot have invalidation for this structure be at promising levels in terms of a 1-2 setup, because this is not an initial 5-wave move to the upside, and realistically, the wave 4 in orange could retrace as low as the 50% retracement at $618, and we would still be looking for a reliable structure to be forming. Now, one more thing before we end the video. If you want to work on these setups with me, I have been providing setup after setup continuously, especially over the last period. The market has been quite generous, and if you don't know how to take advantage of these, you want to work with me, I would encourage you to send me an email. It will show up on the screen right now. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. And if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.